Almost exactly a year since he entered the Conservative leadership race. Now, back on the Shark Tank hit TV show, Kevin O'Leary still has unfinished business with that abandoned bid. He joins us from New York. All right, Kevin, you still owe like $500,000 to pay off the campaign. The rules say you can't pay it off yourself. Are you gonna repay it? And if so, how?
Well, of course I'm going to repay it, and I wish I could repay it off now. It's a bit of a perverse system. I think we should make a small adjustment to the rules and force people that end up in deficit to pay their bills, particularly to the small vendors. I actually petitioned Elections Canada to allow me to do that, and they struck it down and said you have to raise it $15.75 at a time. So what I've done is I've called up my old buddy Mark Cuban and also Barbara Cochran, and we're going to meet together on April 5th in Toronto. We've never done this before. They've never been on the Canadian stage together. We're taking over Casa Loma, and we're going to have one heck of a night. I hope to sell it out. I'm going to sell hopefully 240 tickets plus, and we're going to do it Aspen style. I was a moderator at the Aspen Institute last year, and Mark and Barbara have agreed for that kind of a grilling. So we'll start with Barbara, then we'll do Mark, and then we'll open it up to the crowd. I think it's going to be a very interesting evening. And then I hope to be able to put this aside and pay all these small vendors off, which I think is, you know, it's ridiculous that I can't use what I already have. I have the financial means to pay this off. I should have done it a long time ago.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you're going to donate to charity amount given to that fundraiser. I guess that, as you say, it makes a bit of a mockery of the rules, doesn't it? You're going to donate it, pay it one way or the other.
Well, the thing is, why would anybody come to a failed bid? I mean, you know, I'm not in the race now. I owe $500,000. So I said, well, why don't I do this? If you come to my event, which I think is going to be great anyways, every dollar you give me towards paying off the campaign deficits to the vendors, I'll donate to a charity that gives to Canadian entrepreneurs. So make me write another check for $308,000. I'm happy to do that too. I just, you know, I want to help entrepreneurs in Canada. I'd love to see Canada move forward. I'm, you know, as a global investor, I'm very concerned about what I've seen happen over the last 6 months. And I intend to be one heck of an agitator when we finally get to this next election, because I see lots of problems brewing for our Mr. Trudeau, and I can't wait to point them out to Canadian voters.
Yeah, okay. That was the Shark Tank pitch you sold me and your fundraiser, so let's move on, though. I do want to get your thoughts. I mean, you supported Maxime Bernier. You vowed to help with advice if asked. We're 8 months or so into Andrew Scheer's leadership. How do you think he's doing? Should Justin Trudeau be afraid?
Well, I think, you know, my aspect in looking at from politics from the inside out, because I did spend a fair amount of time and money doing what I did, I've learned a very important lesson that every Canadian knows already and feels. We do not hire new prime ministers. We never have. We've had lots of dark horses be hired by the fact we fire the old prime minister. So if Trudeau does not have a good outcome in 18 months, it'll be because he did it to himself. And I'm just pointing out some things that I think Canadians should think about. And it hasn't really had a chance to manifest itself. There's a massive difference between the American economy and the Canadian economy now, because they've deregulated, they've stripped aside any inkling of a carbon tax, and they've reduced their corporate taxes to 21% versus what we pay in Canada, including provincial, let's say Quebec, at 29. So there's a big difference now. And personal taxes have been slashed to the high end of 37.5 in the U.S., and they're 57 in Canada. So we're not competitive anymore. And you're going to start to see a lot of money leave Canada and be put to work in the U.S., where the upside is material. We're growing at 2 and change on GDP, and the U.S. has just blocked its third quarter at over 3% GDP. So they're doing it 33% faster than we are. We've got some issues.
I was going to ask you, because I was hearing that people are saying our tax disadvantage now is worse in terms of attracting investment than the threat to NAFTA, that NAFTA really if it came or went, it didn't really matter, but corporations would follow the low tax environment. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I was actually at the ETF conference, which was global, yesterday in Miami, about $7 trillion in the room. All the sovereign funds are present there. And the discussion around Canada was it's not a place to allocate capital, because it's got such a huge differential in corporate taxes, but worse, I hadn't thought about it for a while. Our regulatory environment is so different than what the U.S. has done. They've stripped so many regulations, particularly around the oil and gas space. And so as one sovereign said to me, why would I put money in Alberta when I can put it in Texas and not deal with any carbon tax, have a significantly lower corporate tax, and have a government that wants me to invest? And I had no answer for him. I mean, we don't have an answer to that question. We've got to make ourselves more competitive very quickly.
Kevin, in your view, is NAFTA a dead deal walking here nowadays? Is it pretty much as good as gone?
No, I think NAFTA will ultimately be negotiated slightly to our disadvantage. Wilbur Ross is pretty good at what he does. I don't think Trump will walk away from the 38 states. There's 6 million jobs at stake, so I don't think he wants to lose those. But you can start to see on the margin where it's going to hurt. He threw on some tariffs onto relatively a small sector, washing machines and solar panels, but he's just showing that he can do it, and he will. And so what will happen, I'm going to guess, as we go through the renegotiation of NAFTA, it's not going to come out better for Canada. It's going to come out worse on the margin. And so what we should be doing now is making sure that we become very attractive to capital from other countries. Now, yeah, the TPP deal is interesting, but the problem was when Trudeau went to China, he lectured them on human rights when he had an opportunity to bring real money back home. The Chinese are listening to that saying, what do I need a guy with a 2.8% GDP telling me how to run my country? And they sent him home what as I like to call a bunch of Dragon's Den deals, nothing material. And he should have been able to bring back billions for infrastructure spending. But he can't deliver on that either. Oh. You can't build a pipeline in Canada, you can't get a road built, you just get blocked on everything you want to do. So we got issues. I'm just telling Canadians, wake up and smell the roses. We should start thinking about being competitive.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing you back on the campaign trail in 2019. Kevin O'Leary, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show.
Take care. Bye-bye.